Hello and welcome. I'm here to share information, and for today, I'm going to be sharing information about mistakes made trying to set boundaries. So, a lot of us who attempts to set boundaries, we tend to do it in an unhealthy way. So, that's why a lot of times it may fail. So, here are some of the unpopular mistakes that causes boundary settings to fail. Okay? Number one, telling people what they should do or not do and why they're wrong. This creates resistance and struggle. Trying to change or manage the other person is not likely to be well received or successful, especially when unsolicited and there's a pattern of problematic behavior. Most people don't like to be told what to do and why they're wrong, or they may not be able to stop. Number two, poor timing, wrong intent. Reacting from anger, frustrations, and the heat of the moment when you're at your wits' end. This approach triggers a reaction in kind, escalates, and prolongs the situation. It is a desperate attempt to try to force the other person to do something. Turning up the volume sends executive functions offline, further limiting a person's ability to control themselves or process the information. Limits are different than punishment and are not motivated by or delivered in anger. The feelings and motivations behind what we do affects the message received and determines its impact. Number three, trying to get people to admit or own up to something or recognize that the limits are for their own good. This approach creates control struggle around autonomy, inviting argument, debate, and resistance, counterforce. It is experienced as emotional force, trying to control how the other person thinks or feels, and can also be humiliating. Number four, saying too much, justifying, over explaining, and being invested in convincing the other person that what they're saying is reasonably right. This approach seems insecure, relinquishes power, diminishes credibility, allows an opening for opposition or argument. It is associated with needing validation, fear of the other person getting mad, or the misconception that logic works when emotions are at play. Setting limits effectively requires coming from a position of strength, different from dominance, and being grounded and emotionally separate from the other person. Number five, being unprepared, including not factoring in what you already know about the things that will realistically play out. This sets up preventable failure, or having a plan but not consistently doing what you say you'll do. Sabotages credibility. Also, intermittent reinforcement increases problematic behavior. So that was the last key point being made in some of the information that I have decided to share with you guys. In a nutshell, when we decide to set boundaries, first we have to learn to set boundaries with ourselves. Because at the end of the day, if you are dealing with other people, whether it's at work, whether it's your child, your children, a significant other, family, whomever, especially when you're at a certain age and you know yourself well enough of knowing your triggers, it's very important that you first get with yourself and ask self, what are the boundaries you're going to set for yourself, which are nothing more than standards, right? Not only do you set those boundaries with yourself, but if you are interacting with someone else and you feel lines are being crossed, you have to ask yourself in a healthy way, how are you going to handle the situation? Because a lot of us, because of emotions, because of triggers, because of past traumas, we tend to take the approach of being an oppressor and an adversary. A lot of times being an adversary of ourselves and being an oppressor of others. So we think we're setting a boundary, but in all seriousness, we're kind of sort of turning into bullies because you can't control anybody else but yourself. So at some point you got to ask self, what is it that you can do to remove yourself, change your environment, or how can you take the approach that's most healthiest in dealing with the individual, and then if you choose to, giving them the chance to show whether or not they can get on board with what it is that you're asking for. But I say all of that to also say, again, just make sure that you're not taking an approach of oppressor, because we are not here to oppress anybody. We're all here with self-will given. So just be mindful of how and why you're setting boundaries, and make sure you're mindful of where it's stemming from within you. Until next time, you guys, thank you so much, and I'll be back with effective communication and boundary setting. This was Mistakes. I'll be back again with the effective way of how to set boundaries with individuals, okay? Thanks again. Bye.